The spit hit the concrete with a wet slap. "Get lost, old man." Lieutenant Marcus Reed's voice cut through the Norfolk Naval Base like a blade. His polished boots gleamed in the morning sun as he stepped between the shabby figure and the gangway to the USS Intrepid. Behind him, a dozen sailors stopped their work to stare. The old man didn't move. He stood there in his wrinkled civilian clothes, a faded baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. His hands trembled slightly as he reached into his jacket pocket. I said, "Move." Reed's hand dropped to his sidearm. "This is a restricted area. I have papers." The voice was quiet, weathered like old leather. Reed snatched the documents. His eyes scanned them quickly, then he laughed, a harsh sound that echoed off the ship's hull. "Thomas Mitchell? You're kidding me." He held up the papers for the gathering crowd to see. "This guy says he's supposed to be on the inspection team. Look at him." The old man's clothes hung loose on his frame. His beard was unkempt, gray stubble covering hollow cheeks. A slight tremor ran through his left hand as he waited. "Sir, Don't sir me." Reed stepped closer. "You're some homeless vet trying to scam your way onto my ship." "Security." Two MPs jogged over, their boots thundering on the dock. The sound made nearby gulls scatter into the gray sky. "Remove this man from the premises," Reed ordered, "and check him for weapons." The old man's shoulders sagged. For a moment, something flickered in his eyes, not anger, but something deeper. Resignation, maybe, or disappointment. "There's been a mistake," he said quietly. "Yeah, yours." Reed turned to address the crowd of sailors. "This is what happens when you don't maintain standards. When you let just anyone think they can walk onto a United States Navy vessel." The MPs moved forward. One grabbed the old man's arm. "Wait." A young seaman stepped forward. "Sir, maybe we should. Maybe you should mind your own business, Rodriguez." Reed's voice was ice. "Unless you want to join him." Rodriguez stepped back, his face flushed. The old man looked up at the ship's superstructure. The American flag snapped in the breeze above them. His lips moved silently, as if he were counting something. 73, he whispered. "What did you say?" "Nothing, son." Reed's face darkened. "I'm not your son. I'm Lieutenant Reed, United States Navy. And you're trespassing on federal property." The MPs began to escort the old man away. His footsteps were uneven, favoring his right leg. With each step, his left hand trembled more noticeably. "Pathetic," Reed muttered, loud enough for everyone to hear. "These old-timers think their glory days mean something. This is the modern Navy. We don't have time for has-beens." The old man stopped walking. The MPs tugged at his arms, but he planted his feet. "You're right," he said, turning back to face Reed. "Times have changed." Something in his voice made the sailors lean closer. Even the gulls seemed to pause their cries. "The ships are bigger now. Faster, more lethal." The old man's eyes fixed on Reed's. "But the sea remembers everything." Reed rolled his eyes. More rambling from Lieutenant Reed. The voice boomed across the dock like a cannon shot. Every sailor snapped to attention. The old man straightened too, muscle memory kicking in. Admiral Sarah Chen strode down the gangway, her stars catching the light. Her face was thunderous. "Ma'am," Reed saluted sharply. "What the hell is going on here?" Chen's voice could have cut steel. "Admiral, I was just removing this vagrant from..." "This vagrant?" Chen's voice dropped to a whisper. The most dangerous sound in the Navy. "Did you just call Captain Thomas Mitchell a vagrant?" The world went silent. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Reed's face went white. "Captain? Captain Mitchell, Medal of Honor recipient. Former commanding officer of 3 destroyers. The man who saved 216 souls when the USS Yorktown went down in the Persian Gulf." The old man, Captain Mitchell, stood straighter. The tremor in his hand stilled. "Admiral Chen," he said softly. "It's good to see you again." "The honor is mine, Captain." Chen's voice was warm now, reverent. "I've been looking forward to your inspection." Reed's mouth opened and closed like a fish. But he looks like... "Like what, Lieutenant?" Chen's eyes were fire. Like a man who spent 18 months in a Taliban prison camp? Like someone who took shrapnel to save his crew? Like a hero who's been fighting invisible wounds for 20 years? The crowd of sailors pressed closer. Rodriguez stepped forward, his face burning with shame. "Sir," he said to Mitchell, "I should have spoken up. I'm sorry." Mitchell nodded slowly. "No apology needed, son. You did what you could, but I didn't do enough. Sometimes that's all we can do." Mitchell's voice was gentle. "The important thing is that you tried." Reed stood frozen, his career crumbling around him. I didn't know." "You didn't know because you didn't ask." Chen's voice was merciless. "You saw appearance and made assumptions. You humiliated a decorated officer in front of his sailors." "Admiral, I can explain." "Number." Chen held up a hand. "You can report to my office at 0800 tomorrow. We'll discuss your future in the Navy then." Reed's face crumpled. He looked around desperately, but found no sympathy in the eyes watching him. "Captain Mitchell," Chen said, "would you like to proceed with the inspection?" Mitchell looked at the ship towering above them. His eyes traced the lines of the hull, the placement of the weapon systems, the angle of the superstructure. "She's beautiful," he said quietly. "The finest ship in the fleet," Chen replied. "Your recommendations from the Philadelphia helped us redesign the armor plating." 73 millimeters, Mitchell said. "That's what I was counting earlier. The thickness of the forward plating." Several sailors exchanged glances. How could he know that just from looking? "You could tell from here?" Chen asked. "Water displacement, hull angle, the way she sits in the water." Mitchell's voice grew stronger. "A ship tells you everything if you know how to listen." He walked toward the gangway. His limp more pronounced now, but his bearing proud. The sailors parted before him like the Red Sea. "The tremor," Rodriguez said quietly. "Is that from?" "Torture," Chen said simply. "They broke his hand in 3 places, tried to make him reveal fleet positions. He never said a word." Reed stood alone on the dock, forgotten. His career, his pride, his future all, destroyed by his own prejudice. "Admiral," Mitchell called from the gangway. "Permission to come aboard?" "Permission granted, Captain." "Welcome home." As Mitchell climbed the gangway, the sailors began to whisper among themselves. Stories they'd heard, legends they'd dismissed. The captain who'd held off 6 enemy vessels while evacuating wounded. The officer who'd walked into a burning engine room to save his crew. The man who'd refused early retirement to keep serving. "My grandfather served under him," one sailor said. "Said he was the best captain in the fleet. I heard he turned down Admiral to stay on the ships," another added. Reed heard every word. Each one was a nail in his coffin. On the deck, Mitchell paused at the rail. He looked out over the harbor, where other gray ships waited at anchor. His hand found the rail, and the tremor stopped completely. 68 years, he said to Chen. "Since I first set foot on a Navy ship. And you've never left, have you?" Mitchell smiled for the first time that day. "No, Admiral. I suppose I haven't." Below on the dock, Reed watched the man he'd called a vagrant inspect the most advanced warship in the fleet. Watched him point out flaws that would have taken engineers weeks to find. Watched him earn the instant respect of every sailor who met him. "Rodriguez," Reed called out desperately. The young seaman looked at him with pity. "Sir, I made a mistake." "Yes, sir, you did." Rodriguez walked away, leaving Reed alone with the sound of the waves and the memory of his own voice, calling a hero a vagrant. On the ship above, Mitchell continued his inspection. His hands moved surely over instruments he'd helped design, checking systems he'd recommended. The tremor was gone completely now, replaced by the steady confidence of a man in his element. "The forward radar array," he said to Chen. "You'll want to recalibrate the frequency. The harbor interference will affect targeting at ranges beyond 12 nautical miles." "How did you?" "I wrote the manual." Mitchell's eyes twinkled. "Version 3.7. The update should be in your system by now." Chen smiled. "You're still full of surprises. The sea teaches you to pay attention to details, small things that others miss." Mitchell looked down at the dock where Reed stood alone. Sometimes the most important lessons come from the most unexpected places. Are you referring to the lieutenant? He's young, proud, thinks he knows everything. Mitchell's voice was thoughtful. I was the same way once. Took a very wise admiral to set me straight. Admiral Morrison? He saw potential in an arrogant young officer who thought he was better than everyone else. Gave me a chance to prove myself. Mitchell paused. Maybe Lieutenant Reed deserves the same chance. Chen stared at him. After what he did to you? After what he did to himself. Mitchell's voice was gentle. Humiliation is a powerful teacher, Admiral. Use it wisely. As the inspection continued, word spread through the fleet. The legend was back. The ghost of the Navy's greatest captain had returned to the ships he'd never really left. Reed remained on the dock until sunset, watching the ship he'd been so proud to serve on, knowing he'd probably never set foot on her again. The old man's words echoed in his mind. The sea remembers everything, including his mistakes. The tremor in his own hands had nothing to do with age or torture. It was shame, pure and simple. The shaking of a man who'd forgotten what honor meant. Above him, Captain Thomas Mitchell completed his inspection as the sun set over Norfolk Harbor. The hero the Navy had never lost, returning to the ships that had always been his home. And somewhere in the distance, the sea remembered it all.